be cautiously optimistic. 2007 was a long time ago, and this new show will be the talk of the town, or at least the most current thing to discuss about the series unless RGG Studios releases a game this year, which would be wild. They could. Cause they're freaks, cause they're freaks, cause they're freaks. RGG Studios? What the fuck? Not only are you making a Majima-focused Like a Dragon game titled Like a Dragon Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, but you've taken the reins of Virtua Fighter after almost 20 years without a new entry, on top of Project Century, which appears to be separated entirely from your main series in terms of gameplay, story, and maybe location? What's next, Judgment 3? Actually, I would like a Judgment 3 very much. Please. Please. What's your secret? Are you that good at developing games? Has your pipeline of reusing assets over the years allowed your team to focus more on story and characters to have a quick turnaround and reduce the busy work? Are you crunching your employees? You're probably crunching your employees, let's be honest. This is the video game industry. But still, the speed at which you're creating your games while the quality for the most part remains solid is insane. If you told me back when I first got into this series with Judgment and Yakuza 0 that we would get a game about Majima being a pirate Yakuza in Hawaii, I would have called you crazy and told you to leave my house. And also, what's a pirate Yakuza? Why are they in Hawaii? Okay, perfect subtitle aside, this year marks the 20th anniversary for RGG Studios, and frankly, I can't think of no better way to launch the occasion than with a game about everyone's favorite disco dancing, cabaret managing, knife wielding, eye patch wearing Yakuza, losing his memories and becoming a pirate Yakuza, complete with what appears to be naval traversal and combat ripped straight out of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. Gollum Bones, eat your Singapore debt-ridden heart out. True quadruple A gaming is finally here, and we got a pet tiger to boot. What do you got, delaying Assassin's Creed Shadows again?
They did that! They actually did that! Oh, this company is so cooked!
But how did we get here? The series is known for going over the top occasionally, but pirates? Madlantis? Samoa Joe? The journey of Goro Majima from Yakuza member to swashbuckling captain of a pirate crew may sound like nothing more than a fun seafaring tale, but I think if we look back at the evolution of this character, we can highlight what the creative team at RGG Studios excels at with regards to their writing. We have a lot of history to cover, so settle down and grab yourself some stamina X. Starting from the very beginning, in release order, Goro Majima was simply a crazy guy with an eye patch and a baseball bat, with no real relationship to main character Kazuma Kiryu. Infatuated with Kiryu's refusal to fight him when they first meet in the game, he spends the rest of the stories trying to find various ways to get Kiryu to trade blows. The fight in the batting cages and ramming a semi-truck into Shangri-La are just ways for the developers to come up with fun scenarios for boss fights. In one, he's barely a character, but it's fine because it's a video game, who cares? His character is mostly the same in 2, except he is now out of the Yakuza and runs Majima Construction via the Florist of Sigh's old underground. Again, he's mostly comedy relief and a way to keep him around, except not as an antagonist. Starting from 3 onwards, we do get to see a Majima that feels less like an amusing clown and more of an intelligent, often kind individual. Don't worry, he's still Majima, but it's not as chaotic as his first appearance in the series. In Yakuza 4, Majima's sworn brother Taiga Saejima was a playable character, and through him we were able to see a more down-to-earth side of Majima before he lost his eye. Even though Majima didn't technically portray Saejima, trapped from helping him with the setup for an assassination of a rival Yakuza family, he still regrets not being able to save him from decades in the joint, and laments about the two getting older and out of touch with the up-and-coming generation. He respects Saejima and Kiryu, but sees the Tojo clan for what it is, a dying empire in need of a good ass-kicking from the Yakuza 4. And then Majima, frankly, is barely existent in Yakuza 5, and what they gave him almost ruined his character completely. The main kickoff of the plot, not the dream plot, the main plot, is the supposed death of Goro Majima. When playing as Haruka, her manager Mirei Park bonds with Haruka and tells her that when she was an idol, she was actually married to someone, scandalous at the time. But after getting an abortion when she got pregnant, her husband hit her and left. That husband was Majima. Yes, that Majima. See, back in the day, RGG Studios didn't really have a grasp as to how to write their female characters, but this is a leap and a half for everyone's favorite wildcard Yakuza man. The games since haven't mentioned this at all, so I assume this has either been retconned or something they're just gonna brush aside, because like seriously, how the fuck do you bring this up? When the 10th anniversary of the series was coming up, it was decided that a prequel game would be created for the occasion. We'd get to see both Kiryu and Majima back before they were the legendary Dragon of Dojima and Mad Dog of Shimano. For Kiryu, it was kinda obvious where to put him at the start of everything, a lowly Yakuza grunt. Majima was a bit tricky. Where do we find him, post losing his eye, but pre-snakeskin pattern jacket and black leather pants? How did Majima Goro become the legendary Mad Dog of Shimano? Majima's introduction in Yakuza 0 feels almost the opposite of what you would expect, given his wild nature. Dubbed the Lord of the Night, he runs the Cabaret Grand in Sotenbori and lets a rowdy drunkard walk all over him. Eventually, he tells the band to cue the music and we finally get to see that showmanship and bravado we know and love him for. But it feels different, more constrained, less honest, as if he's playing a role he clearly doesn't care for. Majima is trapped. Despite the seemingly infinite wealth he appears to have, he's stuck paying off a debt he can never afford, as punishment for seemingly betraying Saejima and his clan due to the events of Yakuza 4. His handler, Sagawa, gives Majima a proposition. He can leave Sotenbori and rejoin the Yakuza, as long as he accepts this murder request for a bad guy named Makoto Makimura. With no other option than to die a slow and painful death, he accepts the mission and winds up discovering the identity of Makoto belonging to a blind woman who seems to be unaware of who or why there would be a hit on her in the first place. Throughout Majima's story, he meets those who will inspire his Mad Dog persona later in the series. Seeing how Nishitani and Lee, I think, living their life free to do whatever they want shows Majima that he can escape his confines too and not have to live in shame while waiting for the inevitable confrontation with Saejima. When he loses Makoto again due to Sagawa finding out about his betrayal, he is forced back into the race to find her, only for both Majima and Sagawa to find out that Shimano, his boss, was not only the one that ordered the hit, but also knew that he would fail in his task, getting the empty lot all to himself and putting the Omi Alliance on top of the Tojo clan. This breaks Majima. The whole time he thought he was finally breaking free from his cages, he was merely playing pretend, a cog in the wheel. After this, he begins to truly take matters into his own hands and goes rogue trying to find Makoto. When he almost loses her and vows to fulfill her wish of killing Dojima, the Mad Dog persona is truly formed. Not out of a mental breakdown, but mental clarity. Throughout Zero, Majima has been kicked around, paraded as a puppet while those above him fight amongst themselves for control, and he's had enough. He finds the resolve to live and die on his own terms, Yakuza or not. The path ahead may lead to certain death, but until the end, he's going to live like there's no tomorrow, as free as he can. But I can't help but feel Yakuza 0's story is still a tragedy in a way. I'm not just talking about Majima letting Makoto go, recognizing that she would just be in danger if she ever were to realize who he was or was back in his life in some way. She's been through enough suffering already. I'm talking about what happens after Zero. By the end, Kiryu and Majima have both risen to become who they are in the future, the legendary Dragon of Dojima and Mad Dog of Shimano. And we all know what happens next. The bubble era in Japan was a time where the party rocked until there was no tomorrow, even if said bubble burst before they could even react. There's this underlying irony in the whole thing. Both are finally the legend they are supposed to be, for better and for worse. Post-Zero, Majima's stocks were through the roof, so much so that he occasionally hogged the spotlight more and more. Kiwami 1 had to add scenes of Majima being funny with the Majima Everywhere system, because if they just left him alone, the remake would have fell off. We even got a nice conclusion to the events of Zero with the Majima saga in Kiwami 2, where he reunites with Makoto and gives her the fixed watch back while he fights Dio from JoJo. He shows up again in 7 and Infinite Wealth, but those were just cameos to be honest. He does look really good in Infinite Wealth though. Very sexy, love me some brooding men. What does this all mean though? How does Majima's characterization throughout the years tie back into what RGG Studios excels at? For my money, I think it has less to do with what they did, and more so the fact that they even did it in the first place. Majima really didn't need to be in Zero, but due to how popular he is, the developers and storytellers at RGG took a risk and tried to give him a serious, emotional, and thematically rich origin story. That's kinda rare for this type of long-form narrative. There's this fear with serialized entertainment that the creators fall into a formula with how they tell their story, that as a result nothing changes and risks aren't taken. It can lead to a sense of stagnation, which can easily turn into a feeling of old men desperately trying to relive a bygone era. And the characters are stuck in a never-ending loop with writers that are all from this one group that I think they all rotate with because the book still sells well. Why bother doing things that are actually interesting and progressing the characters in ways that... Okay, I'm sorry. You know who I'm talking about, okay? You know... The Web Slinger! The Minute! Can we move on? RGG Studios could have rested on their laurels and just pulled the Majima saga. Instead, they gave him amnesia and made him a pirate. That sounds insane. The jump could not be more above the shark if they tried. Hell, even when the game's premise was leaked months ago, people didn't believe it because it was too ridiculous. I mean, in a series that has a secret golden castle rising up from the ground, a hidden war crime in some random port town, and a protagonist who views life as an RPG game with that haircut, pirates are a stretch too far, right? The answer is no, of course. just in case you didn't get it. Simple fact is, this is what the studio does best. They understand their characters but still don't just play the hits. They have them grow in the story while the developers try new things. Sure, not every idea pans out, but still attempts are made to pull something new out of themselves, out of their characters, and out of their stories. If they didn't do that, some of the most memorable moments of the series wouldn't have happened. We can play as an idol doing dance battles across town, a broke lovable dork who loves baseball, a homeless man turned billionaire that smokes too much, an ex-Yakuza turned into a secret spy with his name erased, Japanese Dave Bautista, a schizophrenic hero trying his best to help those in need, and soon a pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. And all of these things can fit into a series called Like a Dragon. No one is static, time marches forward, people change. We're all gonna die eventually, might as well have some fun while you can.